welcome to Conversations with the candidate for select person, Debra Roberts. My name is Mike Hardman, and in full disclosure, I do work for Debra, and Debra is a coworker too, so I get to see her on both sides of it. Debra, this has been like a different kind of election. I remember when we first met, it was November in Boston, and it was about 20 degrees, and today it's muggy and hot, and it's the longest election in Stoughton history because of everything that's gone on. What has campaigning been like?
Campaigning has been different, but it has been enjoyable. Just meeting the people out in the community, hearing them cheer me on, wave hands, honking their car horns has been really a treasure. But what has been different when comparing to previous elections is that we had to find different ways of making our voice and the message heard. So we had a lot of virtual meetings, virtual coffee hours, being out and about in the center of town when it was safe. That was pre-pandemic. It was so cold and wintry, so we were out there. So throughout the whole campaign, I've been meeting people virtually, talking with them on the telephone. So it has really been a positive experience and something that I will treasure forever.
You've been on the town meeting member, you've been on the finance committee, chairman of the diversity and exclusion. But this is your first run for selectman, or select person. I'm going to mess that up to my head too. um, this is your first run for select person. What was the difference that made you do that? What was the deciding factor?
Well, the deciding factor is I've had leadership roles in very Stoughton communities and boards, like the Board of Assessors, like being town meeting rep for multiple terms. But I believe that it's time for me to step up and have a more leadership role, especially during times of a pandemic. My expertise is in finance, and I will make decisions that make sense in these certain times without undue burden on the taxpayers. That's what I believe will bring to the table. Also, my collaborative skills. I'm a collaborator and I listen. So those skills I plan to bring to the table and why campaigning and want to be elected as select person.
When you talk about new candidates, usually somebody who's lived in town maybe 3 or 4 years or just came on. You've lived here a long time. Can you talk a little bit about why you came to Stoughton and how you've made your home over the years and how it's affected you?
Yes, I've lived in Stoughton for 32 years, and Stoughton is a great place to live. It's a safe place to live. The education is great. I have three children that benefited from going through the Stoughton public school system. They went on and graduated, went on to college and graduated, and have professional careers. I've benefited from living in Stoughton as well. It's a mixed community that I feel safe in.
With talking about mixed community, that segues into your work with the division and inclusion group. And you've had the week today put the beautiful peaceful protest against Mr. Floyd and all that, and talk about that role in your life with the diversity and how that plays into the town's strengths.
So the Diversity and Inclusion Organization, I am the chair. We have a board. We have a formal structure. For the peace vigil that occurred on Wednesday, it was the Stoughton Diversity and Inclusion Organization in collaboration with the Stoughton Clergy Association. It was a great turnout, and there was a need to voice our opinion and mourn this unjust that occurred to Mr. Floyd. And I'm glad we were there to put something on. And the feedback that I'm receiving is positive. There was a need, and I'm glad we were there to fill that need. But
You've been trying to reach out to everybody. One of your campaigns is you're a candidate for all of Stoughton. How do you do that? How have you been able to reach out to people that might been left out of the process, or just don't think it's that big of a deal, or just don't want to frustrated and don't want to participate?
well, first I would say that just to give a little bit of my background, my both of my grandparents are are white. Um, my husband is a retired Stoughton police officer. My kids went through the Stoughton public school system. So I can empathize with a wide range of people and understand what they're going through. And I want to be the voice for all people.
Do you think politics sometimes divides us into groups, even on the local level?
Yes, it does. And I would hope to bring people together because it's important that people recognize their vote is their voice. And being political shouldn't divide us. I mean, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, we are first people. We are humans and we have the same needs. And if you talk to people like or residents of the town of Stoughton like I have, you'll find that it's probably less than 3 degrees of separation. You know somebody that they know, or you feel the same way, or in your past history, you work with them, some there are close ties, and we have a lot in common.
You must have noticed that on the campaign trail that you're running into people that
Oh yeah,
know somebody knows
absolutely.
you, that knows somebody knows you.
Right, right. And that's a wonderful thing because you can really get to the meat, to the heart of the matter. What are the issues that they are facing specifically, and bring that to the table for discussion and hopefully resolution, a quick resolution. But we know politics, sometimes the bureaucracy takes a long time.
When you look at bureaucracy, you deal with that in your professional life. Is that going to help you when you become on the board if you're elected on Tuesday? You think that
Absolutely.
experience helps?
Absolutely, because our major client is the IRS and Social Security Administration. So I'm pretty familiar with the channels or chains of commands or the policies that they have in place and how to get things done. And I'll also use my network to help facilitate resolution to different discussions and issues. So
How do you get people?
go
How do you
ahead.
get people involved? How do you do that with when you're reaching out to them? How do you do the next step to welcome to town meetings so you can fill up those town meeting seats? We have so many needs in the community. There are people for volunteers. How do you get those people to come out of the woodwork rather and take a role? What do you tell them?
Well, I tell them that it's important for them to be visible and to show up and express their concerns. And one way to get the word out of what's going on is to use social media. Social media is very important, it's a powerful tool, but also being out in the community, talking to people and listening to people. Listening is most important.
Why'd
Like,
you make why'd you make the decision to run a positive campaign?
I don't believe, personally, in my opinion, that the negativity takes us very far. Actually, it distracts from what the candidate brings to the table. So let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about how you plan to resolve this issue. Let's talk about skill sets to resolve issues instead of negativity.
Is this where your experience of bringing people together, like food diversity inclusion, and working in finance committee basically as a cooperative effort, does that pay off that way for you? You think if you're elected?
Yes, it does. It's very important to be collaborative and to have a finance background to move the town forward and working with others. Being collaborative is just as important as having a finance background, in my opinion. And one of the focal points of being chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Organization for the town of Stoughton is listening to the voices of the many and bringing the town together as a community or further along as a community.
You made an effort to reach out to different groups. You met newcomers, mothers, um, first responders, older residents. How do you do that? How do you get everybody to work together? How do you bring all this beautiful melting pot we have and put it all together? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, we start with the premise that everyone wants the best for the town of Stoughton. That's what unites us. So if you start with that premise and you talk and you find out that you have more in common, and even with my campaign, I've brought new people, new residents, younger people into my campaign team and to spread the word about this is what I'm all about, getting more people involved in the town. And that just doesn't mean more involved to be on the board or be in town representatives, but although that is important, but that is just volunteering their time. And they can be volunteer for a variety of events and activities, such as the food shelter, or the homeless shelter and the food pantry, or mentoring. It could be any number of ways to get involved in the town, whatever they would like to do. I encourage all to do that.
How did you get that philosophy and giving back? Did you get that from someone along the way? Did you develop it? Because you have a real commitment to working with people. I mean, you're a very busy person, and you're doing this and this and this and this, but you always seem to find time to do this, and this. How do you get your community spirit involvement? How do you get the passion for that?
Oh, well, that spirit has always been with me. When I think of my parents and my grandparents who worked from St. Louis, Missouri. That's my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri, and they were on the board at HUD, or they were on the board of directors for the YMCA, and I just carried that forward. I guess you would call it that term. You're like, pay it forward.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
you
would.
kind of inherited this passion that you have. It's
Right,
funny how people get that. It always goes back to the grandparents. The grandparents
yeah,
deserve a lot of credit for that usually, and
right,
the parents
right.
too. When you talk about Stoughton, you talk about with a passion, and you talked a little bit before about why you came here now. Why do you stay here now? Why is the reason why you're gonna, you get older and you don't move? Why do you keep staying here?
Because I've built up a network of friends. I've built up a network of people that want to move the town of Stoughton forward, fiscally responsibly, move the town forward. It's such a great place to live. We have our um, new high school, we have our new public library. We have so many nice things to talk about positively. And the people want the best for Stoughton. And once again, that's what unites us.
We'll switch to your specialty now. We'll go into the finance and numbers
Oh.
isn't my thing, but it is yours, which is a good thing because that's what you do. Um,
Mhm,
let's talk about the issues facing the town financially in the wake of COVID-19.
mhm. Well, I have over 25 years in finance. I have a master's in business administration with a concentration in finance, and then I have other other degrees that focus in finance as well. So what I've done in my career is develop uh, multi-year baseline budgets. And what that means by definition is literally you take a deep dive look at the budget, you look at actuals, you project it, and I'm gonna just use these terms and I'll go back and further define it. You project it forward considering what activities and environment you're in, along with the inflation rate. So, said in simple terms, it is the starting point is your current actual expenditures and your current actual revenue. But taking the deep dive to make it a multi-year, you first have to talk with the leaders and prioritize what type of projects you want to work on so you can cover the capital expenditures, or look at the opportunities for bringing in new revenue and apply for them so you could be ready to, I guess, start working on and implement these capital projects.
What's the danger in not doing anything and waiting till this goes away and things come back? I understand the initial reaction of people is, I'm not going to spend anything because I don't want to take the risk. But explain how it's risky not to do that, not to do anything.
Well, let's use as an example a business. A business is always doing something. So, like marketing, they have to market their business. If they don't spend to market, then they're likely to go out of business. Doing nothing is actually going back. Doing nothing is actually putting you out of business. You always have to be proactive, be a visionary, and think of the future.
When you're talking about input, you're not really factoring in things, expenses going up that are already built in, like salaries, equipment purchases, things you have to do because to keep the town floating around. Is that a factor in too? Do you think when you stop like that, you're really looking at cutting instead of stopping?
Well, I'm not proactive in cutting people's salary. I know
Yeah.
that corporations, salaries or in payroll, that's the largest, typically the largest expense item on a P&L or profit and loss statement. So corporations usually do that as a last resort. What I'm saying is get in front of the issue and think about what is coming down the pike. You should be alert for what is likely to happen. Some people call it a rainy day fund. Some people say savings, and it's just like your personal budget. When you have your personal budget, you take money off the top for yourself, which is you're putting it in your savings account, and then you start looking at your expenses, and you don't spend above your means. So that is an approach I am an advocate for.
If you don't grow revenue, aren't you putting yourself in danger during a situation like this? If you don't actively pursue business, actively pursue ways to increase your profits, aren't you just like going really putting becoming a dangerous situation?
You absolutely are. And there are always opportunities out there. There are no opportunities when you don't look for the opportunities. So there are always opportunities, and you have to look for those opportunities by researching because you don't want the town next door to get your allocation of funds. So stay alert.
Let's talk about two. You have to stay alert. I talk about two big ticket items: the Freeman Fire Station and the sewer project in town. Can you talk a little bit about the fire station and what you think about that and how to pay for it?
Okay, the fire station, the fire station, and coupled with the police station, so the new public safety building. Okay, so first the fire station. I've been here for 32 years, and they've been talking about a new fire station ever since I first moved here. So why does it take so long to get a capital project completed? Is it because we don't plan for it? Or is it because something is, we need to fine tune our budget process? I can't answer that. But what I am an advocate for is the new fire station and police station. According to the assessment, it's more, it's cheaper. I'll just use the word cheaper. It's more cheap, it's cheaper or more cost effective to build the two together. And it's about a $50 million capital project. But what I suggest we do is look for resources, and those are financial resources to pay for that capital expenditure versus putting it on the backs of the taxpayer. Look for additional resources and put that money aside like you would do on your personal budget. Don't touch it, and then plan forward. And that's where the multi-year budget comes in.
Also, we talk about financial discipline too, not to run
Yes,
into those accounts. Yeah.
it,
How do
it,
you
it
how do
is.
you do that? How do you do that when things come up? How do you stay financially disciplined to know the project's going to be built? Because if you look at the Freedom Fire Street Station, that could have been done 20 years ago for a lot cheaper, a lot less time. Now it's going to cost more because we have delayed on it so long.
Right. So I just want to say, and I think most people know this, but I'm just going to say it for the record, that if you had if you had completed a capital project in mind, in this case, we're talking about the fire station years ago, it would have been cheaper because materials were cheaper, as an example. But we can't deal in the past. We have to deal with what is in front of us right now, today. And right now, today, there are opportunities, there are stimulus dollars that are open and available to build some of these capital projects. Let's put ourselves in a position where we apply and we utilize it and we use our resources to get more resources.
I like that. how does that how does that segue into the sewer project? I know you're a supporter of sewage in the town.
Yes, I'm a supporter of the sewer project, and that is because it's a revenue generating project. Is one of the first ones that I know that we've had. It is going to be presented this at town meeting in June. I'm an advocate for it, once because it is a revenue generator and there is a health concern that's attached to it. And I'm all about health and wellness. So it's about I'm using round numbers right now. The projected gross revenue for this project is around $28 million. The expenses roughly $7.3 million, somewhere around there. And that's for this phase I'm talking about. And then the, the net revenue would be around $10 million. So, I'm really an advocate for it.
Okay. I'm not a financial person like you are, but just looking at it, if we wait 10 years, it's logical to think that that cost is going way up.
Oh, yes, because cost does rise just because of inflation and materials uh, increase. The ways that we do business increases. So using time value of money, it's cheaper today than it would be in the future.
When you talk about bringing businesses to town, what do you tell a business about coming to Stoughton? What would you tell them you have? What is the advantage of that?
Oh, I would tell them that there are so many benefits to having a business in the town of Stoughton, and because of all the highways and routes that join in the center of Stoughton Center, or they're nearby, so easy access is one. The the skill set of the employees that are here are, are at high level. So that's another benefit of doing business here in the town of Stoughton. And there are people, there are developers that want to do business here in the town of Stoughton. What we need to do is we have our master plan that was, I think that was developed back in um, 2017 or 2017 or so year. So that's already in place. And if it talks about the pharmaceutical business, it talks about the biotech industries, and those are still growth industries even today and going forward into the future. So I would talk about the those type of benefits in the town, but we need a business plan, we need a finance plan, and we need to be collaborative with others that are in the business and the skill set, utilize the skill set with the town employees that are here currently.
We have about 5 minutes left on the almost on the dot. I want to ask you about people voting. I mean, that's been a big stress of yours and a focus of it that you really want to get people to the polls. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of voting?
Your vote is your voice. That's my overarching theme. And if every vote matters, but we are in some challenging times, and the interim town clerk did a very good job of developing a process that will keep us all safe if we go to the ballots. And but it's important that people know that it is going to be safe. And if they still feel uncomfortable, they can do absentee ballots. And that's a way for them to still have their voices heard, voice through their vote, and and participate in this upcoming election, which is going to be on Tuesday, June 9th. I'm
People always,
passionate about people getting out to vote, and I'm asking respectfully for people to vote for me, Deborah Roberts, for one of those open seats.
people always talk about I'll vote in the presidential election, but local election, it's a Tuesday. I'm working, I'm busy. I'm going to skip that. But isn't in effect a local election affect you more?
Yes, local election impacts you, if not more, equal to the national election, because the local elections, you have a voice in different things that are going on, and you want to be heard.
It's so important too because these are tax issues. This is going to affect your wallet. Bad decisions lead to higher taxes.
Yes, they do. And you have to be mindful of that. And you have to be mindful of people that talk about cutting taxes. Well, if you cut taxes, then what employees are you going to cut? What department in the town are you going to cut? So, looking for ways to grow the revenue and controlling expenses is I'm advocating for. That's the process I'm advocating for.
About 2 minutes left. What have you learned the most from this experience, personally?
What I've learned the most about this whole process is that the community comes together. They come together and they want the best for Stoughton, and that's what unites us. Also, what I've learned is some people that have been on the sidelines, that they don't vote for whatever reason. Maybe they think that the issues don't directly impact them, or they believe in status quo, just letting things just go as they have been because their vote doesn't matter, or for other reasons. What I've learned is once you talk to people and you talk more about the importance of voting, they say, okay, I'll do it. And they have agreed. So, I am passionate about people voicing their concerns, and I'm passionate about listening, having the leadership listen to what they have to say. So, those are my takeaways.
Good takeaways. It's. I always tell people that if you're going to complain about what the taxes coming out and what's coming out of your wallet, then did you vote? Because you lose your voice and you lose your right. You don't lose a right to vote, but you lose your voice and you lose having a say in the election. I want to thank you, Deborah, for taking time out of your busy schedule, which will get a little bit busier after the election too when you're on the board. But you've been going to finance committee meetings, you've been running for election, you've been doing the diversity thing, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I want to thank Stoughton Cable Access and Michael Hammond for putting it on. They do such a great job, and really appreciate getting the word out. And just remember, it's only a couple of minutes to vote, but those decisions can last a lifetime. So you really want to get out to vote this year. They've done a great job making sure everything is safe. You'll see boards as videos available too from Stephanie Kerr, the town clerk, that can help you alleviate some of the fears you might have about voting. And on Tuesday, we'll end, we think, the longest campaign in Stoughton history. And I think we're all looking forward to that. But once again, thank you to Stoughton Cable Access. I'm Mike Hardman. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.